And if you want to, you can move up. I don't know if you guys can see. You will. Perfect.
No, I think I'm going to shuffle a little bit.
Yeah.
Do you want to switch with me because I'm taller? Thanks for pointing that out.
I'm not saying head of hair. You are the one to say it. Yeah, shuffle around.
I'm going to sit over here.
Yeah, shuffle around. Thanks for coming, everybody, and welcome. Yeah, you can sit here. So it'll be at one point semi-formal, just because I already presented this presentation at the conference of all the fellows who came back. So that's why I have all these ridiculous papers. But
you say some of them didn't come back?
So what?
Some of them didn't come back?
They all came back.
Unfortunately. Two bottom lights there because you're picking up the screen for
Yeah.
I wanted to give out a quick shout out to Eddie, whose idea it was to have this gathering. That it was her idea, but what a wonderful space to have with people from all walks of life to share some stories and some photos, and just to kind of prompt a conversation, be it in your lives or between you and me. And yeah, it's been a challenging and exhilarating year, to say the least, so I'm excited to share a bit with you. It's hard to do in small conversations, so this is a really unique opportunity. Just to give you the format, I think I'd like to start with a little bit of explanation about what the Watson is, mostly so that if you guys have young kids, you should make them apply, younger kids, and then to give you a little idea of what my project was, and then to string you through my year in a way that'll be semi-overwhelming and, really, sorry, a little bit overwhelming, but such was the nature of my year, and so it'll be an opportunity to share some insights in each country that I went to, and some photos and some stories, but to preface it with the fact that a lot of these insights and the things that I'll say are really thoughts that I sat on for quite a few months while I was in these places, and it seems really strange to share them in like concise and thought out sentences, and they are not, that's not the nature of them. So if you want to have more conversations about those things that I say, I'd be open, and that'd be really wonderful. So to start off, the Watson, it's a pretty phenomenal grant that every year for about the past 50 years gives out 40 fellowships to postgrads with projects ranging all over the board, so science projects and politics-related projects and music-related, really all over. And the point is really just to give inspired individuals this opportunity to do what they love for a year, which is crazy because it's not product-centered, so there's nothing at the end. There's no paper, this presentation they gave us no format. They're like, just do something for 10 minutes, tell us about yourselves, I don't know. And so there really is nothing at the end, and the point is just to give this space and a year of exploration, of getting to know yourself on a deeper level, and then to come back, the product is you, to come back and to share it in a different way. So that's the Watson, and I applied really without the hopes of getting it. You don't have to know. Yeah, that's the Watson at Women's College. But I applied just kind of with the idea of creating a project that was self-motivated. It's not that I hadn't been really excited about a lot of the papers and things that I've been involved in school, but they were usually prompted by a professor or by a group, and I really just wanted to create a project that was me, that was the culmination of what I love, which is people and music, really for the most part. And so but I ended up kind of jumping through the loops and found out in the spring that I got the grant, and so that was really exciting. And my project, it shifts as all Watsons do. They really morph, and so you start with a project and you think, oh yeah, I'm going to go do this project, and what Watson doesn't tell you, because they don't really tell you anything, there's very little communication with the office. They deposit the stipend in your bank, and then they say, okay, now go. And so the project really does change, and it just becomes you, and it just becomes you pursuing what you love, which hopefully is related to what you said your project was, but no one's checking in on you, so that's the very unique aspect of the grant. So what I wanted to do was explore music therapy, which again is really the crux, the coming together of my two passions, and I wanted to explore those in all kinds of different countries for different reasons, but what it ended up being was really the exploration of the intersection of music therapy as a psychodynamic, formally accredited field, and music as a form of traditional healing, and seeing whether those two had any interaction, what was that? Was that a positive interaction? And then it branched out further to kind of investigate why like music is a tool for change. So I worked with groups like who are using music as an agent for social and political change, as well as emotional and psychological change, such as music therapy. And then it also became just about asking people from different cultures who use different styles of music with different perceptions of what healing means in different countries, why music and why is it powerful and what changes people, and that's, and lots more. So it really did begin to kind of move into a different direction that I hadn't expected. Let's see. So a little bit of background about music therapy and the research involved. And if you're interested, you can just go look it up or you can talk to me about it more. But there's a lot of research. It's a fairly new field, but these days in Australia and in England as well as in the US, there are plenty of hospitals and centers that now require music therapists to be there. There's a lot of research about music in the brain, its connection to the inner ear, which is connected to balance and your perception of your body. So it works in helping children with different developmental disorders and autism, as well as people trying to regain balance or recovering from all kinds of injuries. It's used as a mnemonic device, so it's connected to memory and is used with Alzheimer's patients. Anyhow, there's a whole range of research to show that music is really effective at working with a variety of populations. So that's where the base comes from. And with that, I think I'll start, and this is the only photo I actually can't take credit for. Sorry, my friend sent it to me from Nepal. But anyhow, let's start with Nepal, and actually we'll start with this sweet little video. Yeah. It's a short video from Uganda in one of the villages that I lived in a while, and the word apoye is this kind of encouragement for improvisation, and they're all giggling because I was new at this point, and newcomers are not required to improvise or expected to. And what's actually a cool little note that I always thought about is apoye. For any of you who know Spanish, apoyar is to support. So I always thought it was really interesting. Just really fun, something I thought about. And another quick note about the videos. Something that I did that for any of you who travel or who live in communities abroad that was really powerful is because a lot of people came back and have very little documentation of themselves in these places, and obviously the most intense and wonderful moments I have no documentation of, but those live here, and that's great. But I ended up establishing this kind of relationship with people in which, especially with women, in communities that I lived for more than a few weeks, for a couple months, the sisters in the families that I would stay in, or just women around, I would teach them how to use my camera. And a lot of the times I remember approaching the woman who's filming right now, Salia, who you'll see a photo of. She was like, oh, no, give it to Arafat, he's the one who has a phone and might know how to use it. And I was like, no, Salia, do you want to learn how to use the camera? And it's a pretty big camera. She was like, well, okay. And so I taught her, and it's not very difficult. And so what I would do when we'd go, this was at a neighboring village, right next to the village we were in, and there's a bunch of musicians there, and I just gave her the camera and was like, do whatever you want with it. And what's unique about that is it also gives them a lot of power. Some of my new friends, it gave them such a feeling of power. They came back to me, Saya was like, man, I'm so happy you taught me how to use that thing. And then also, I was able to get not just photos of myself, but photos of some of the people that I love without feeling like I was infringing on their space and their privacy, because people in the communities have no shame to just come up to a fellow brother and take photos, and that can be a really uncomfortable thing, especially in the beginning. And there's this line between documenting and just being present that I would often just leave the camera behind. But that became a really wonderful way of of sharing and having. So I'll start with Nepal, and I guess I'll just show a few pictures that I took well in Nepal to give you a sense of the place. This is in the home village of one of my friends, Bikram, and we went just for the weekend for a women's festival, and we ended up killing a chicken on the side and eating it. There's a little boy playing with a chicken head, if you can't see it. It's one of the big festivals in Kathmandu.
Wow.
It's some friends. Selfie!
But first.
This is during the women's festival. So the women dance and fast for a day. It's pretty incredible.
There you are.
There. Yeah. So in Nepal, I observed and helped and eventually worked with a couple of Nepali music therapists, Western trained. So there was a place in Delhi that they had gone to be trained by some British music therapists. So yeah, and we worked in a cerebral palsy home, a general disabilities home, and an autism center. So like Western music therapy. And this is one of the youngest programs and one of the newest programs of music therapy is in Nepal. And so something that's really interesting to note is that all of these Western trained music therapists come from the same caste system, which is the musical caste system as opposed to the healing or like the medicinal caste system. And it's, the medicinal caste rather. And this caste is rather low on the ladder, and it was a really interesting clash of cultures, because then when Westerners tried to come in and spread the word about music therapists, Nepalis were not really able to listen and didn't want to listen to people from the lower caste, even if they were like trained by foreigners ahead and so presented quite a few challenges for music therapy to be developed in Nepal, especially in a place where disabilities are rather hidden and obscured in society, and really any kind of help in disabled centers I think is a really big positive influence. So that's just kind of an interesting note. Yeah. And this is what formal music therapy kind of looks like. This is Kedar, one of the therapists. And I think I'll show, a quick video. So from this, the girl to my right, who is beautiful, she has severe cerebral palsy, and she's about 15 years old, 14. And before music therapy started, a few months before this, she hadn't moved, like, ever at the center. And Kedar had come in, I think, half a year before I came, or something like that. And you'll see her, she's moving and singing, and if I wasn't singing so dang loud, you'd be able to hear her. But she's mouthing all of the words to this Nepali song, so that's really powerful for me. Yeah. She's lovely. So yeah, she's really wonderful. Anyway, just a little example of what music therapy looks like. And I not only got permission from the center and from music therapists, but also from all of the parents of these kids. And I told them I'd only show it to family and nothing published, just so you guys know if you're in the field, because it's really important to me, even though it's not often important in a lot of these places. I would ask, like, is this okay if I would use this for any kind of presentation? And they'd be like, oh my gosh, please, we publish it all over? Like, have my child everywhere. And I was like, really? Like, I will not, but okay. And that was something really different coming from a place of confidentiality and renown, and everything. So the next place I went to was India, and again, I think a few photos. This is in Varanasi.
Oh my gosh.
This is a butcher in one of the places I lived. This is a train station. Look how colorful and vibrant. India and
That's Varanasi.
Yeah, this is the Ganges, and I was actually there during a weekend that's pretty important, where a lot of people come in and bathe in the Ganges. So it was very busy. Vegetable market. Okay, so in India, it was a much more diverse experience as opposed to just working with like one or two music therapists for 3 months. I ended up working and observing with several different groups. Sufi musicians, self-proclaimed music therapists, raga healers, a group of physicists and musicians working together to do research on frequencies and how different kinds of music affects different parts of the body. What else? A group that works with professional musicians and brings them into the slums in Delhi to work with children in the slums. a British training program for music therapists, really a whole range of people who do different kinds of work with music and with therapy. I even, you can show some of the photos. This is a Sufi spot. This is one of the main music therapists that I know with. I did some workshops. I did some workshops as I went on in different groups. Here I did an opera workshop and then like a music, and just to kind of, if people are hosting me and they're letting me learn, is a way of giving back. What can I do? And usually people are like, oh, you've been here? Why don't you give a workshop about this? And it's amazing to feel that kind of power. And but there's something to share. Yeah, these are some of the photos. And the music therapist. Autism Center. I even ended up emceeing an international music therapy conference in India, which was a really mixed experience because I kind of got coerced into it by the music therapist that I was staying with, and I felt like I really needed to do it as a form of repaying her, but the conference was almost all in Hindi, and I knew that I was only doing it because of the country that I came from, and the color of my skin and like the language that I speak, and it was really uncomfortable and really it was a start. India was a start of thinking about just a lot of privilege and how I deal with that in helping people and in repaying and feeling like I was being generous, but also kind of establishing those boundaries. So that was really interesting. But the paper was there. It was really ridiculous. It was all formalities, but a very interesting experience. Not how conferences look here. Yeah. India was the extremes. There was extreme poverty and extreme wealth. It felt like snuggled up under one roof. And you can continue. Tons and tons of people and animals parading everywhere. And so it was shocking, but also one of my favorite places, because for 3 months living in India, she didn't pay for 1 month of rent the whole time there. I was accepted by one family and then was treated as family, and everywhere I went, which was all over the country, they just called, and mother's sisters, father's sisters, cousin, like fiance lived there, and I was family, so I could stay with them. And they fed me and they housed me, and they wouldn't take any money or anything. And so I had to really think about finding different ways of giving back. And like some kids that I stayed with, the last picture, who are definitely, sorry, 2 of my siblings, I love these 2. I ended up like tutoring them in Spanish at night, and the mom and the same mom, but she became one of my wonderful friends, and she had back problems, and I would teach her some stretches in the morning, and she lives like 20 minutes from the Ghats on the Ganges, and she hadn't gone in like 20 years. And so we went one night after the kids were asleep, and so just trying to find these tiny ways of connecting and giving back, because it felt like I was just kind of taking generosity all the time. This is a wedding I got invited to by a good friend, and this is her brother. I stayed with them a while. Beautiful.
Oh yeah, they know how a party is.
I look pretty out of focus.
Kind of like the movie Zelling.
So then I made a pretty difficult transition south and to Africa, to Uganda, and that was hard because I had felt like I had started understanding some things about the culture. I had learned Hindi a fair amount. I could understand 40% of what was going on, and Nepali as well, and so it was a really difficult transition, but I felt like I could have probably stayed in that region for a while, so I wanted to push. Yeah.
Could I ask a question?
Please.
Could you speak a little bit about the sort of beginning and ending parts of each of these visits? How did you connect with the musical therapy community, and how did you find what you were going to do in each area, and then how did you know when it was time to leave?
Yeah, so I'll say something about that now, and we can talk about it more if you'd like later, but so to apply for the grant, I had to apply with a project proposal, and so I did have to have contacts ahead of time. What ended up happening is a lot of those contacts either fell through, or when I got there, it wasn't what I expected, and I didn't want to work with them anymore. And really, in most of these places, I think in most of the places around the world, other than maybe the US, you can just go knocking at people's doors. And even here, but it's so easy to just show up somewhere and be like, hey, I'm available, I have nothing to do, I'm here, I'm supposed to be doing this, I want to meet you, and I'll do anything. I'll wash your dishes, and just to be open to anything. And so I really just pursued and networked, and once I got to a place and I had one contact. I would just start talking about my project to different people at a restaurant, the family I was staying with, on the street all the time, because I looked different. Also, people would stop me and, what are you doing? Or they would follow me, and instead of like sometimes feeling terrified, sometimes I would just turn around and be like, what's up? Hi. And then we'd start to talk, and a lot of those people ended up really connecting me to their communities, because I don't know their communities, and that's how it works. It just works by word of mouth. And then with the transitioning from countries, Watson's guidelines or suggestion is, once you feel that learning exceeds, what do they say? Comfort exceeds learning, I think was their line. Then it's time for you to move on, and only you can know when that is. And yeah, for me it was, I kind of just listened to that, and I also just listened to what was drawing me, and got excited about things. And even if I wasn't ready or I was still learning, I was like, oh, I'm excited, I have to move. And I would start getting it like 2 weeks before, and that's when I would book my tickets. I would start getting these like butterflies and know that it was time to move, which I'm hoping is not going to transfer over to here. I really would, and that's when I would buy my ticket. Like when that hit, I would buy my ticket, and then and then I would move. So in Uganda, let's show some photos, sure. This is a variety of starches. There's a lot of some of the starches that we ate there. During a rainstorm. Yeah, again, my sister captured that. That's amazing. This was a nightly jigger check that my brother Arafat, because they can see them kind of when you're walking. They can just tell you when you have a jigger, but I would make Arafat check my feet. Will you please look again? He's like, yeah, I'll look.
What are they?
They're jiggers. How do you explain jiggers? They're like little,
Like a tick?
little creatures.
tick.
Yeah, but I guess they can end up killing you.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Eventually.
Yeah, you want to find those right away and get
It
rid
looks
of
like
them.
a little blackhead, like a little dot of dirt on your foot, or on
They go
your
under the
leg.
skin.
Huh?
They go under the
They go under the skin, and I've seen quite a few removed. It's not super pleasant, but yeah. I helped with a fishing community with a harvest. So that was what that was. This is family. Yeah, this was actually at a I forget which event this was, but this was at a funeral. Yeah, and we were cooking. There were like 6 other huge pots of rice and cassava and potato and like all these starches, and like a big thing of kind of juice fat with some meat in it that you dip the stuff in. So this is how we cooked for the big events.
Where would you go for your water?
So that's a good question. Depending on the community, sometimes there was a tap in the community that they would share. So it would usually be like 20 minutes walking away, and so we'd bring these kinds of jugs or big jerry cans, which are like yellow plastic, and I learned how to carry them on my head. And then sometimes there were like not really streams. Usually it was a tap. It depends how far you'd have to walk for it. And I would steri-pen all my water, which is like a sterilization device. This is one of my mamas. One of my best friend's mamas. He took me to his village and we stayed there for a week. She actually